It's Quark Beats time, feel the vibe. Ideas that lift, sparks unite. Like, share, subscribe, don't think twice. You can't deny, let's amplify. Join the beat, it's time to Quark Beat. Join the beat, it's time to Quark Beat.
It's time to Quark Beat.
Hello and welcome to the channel. So, voting in the Australian election 2025. We're at Real Quark Beat on YouTube, Quark Beat on Rumble and Facebook. We're leaving Sugar Mountain on BitChute and Odyssey.com, and follow our new X account at Real Quark Beat on X, and my account at James Rendell 17 on X.com. Go to quarkbeat.com for videos and articles. Welcome to the Australian election in 2025. The keys to success are in knowing who to vote for and how to vote in a preferential counting system. I just want to insert here an explanation on the political how to vote materials and promotional materials that are flashing before you in this video. None of these are an endorsement. We're not endorsing anyone for this political campaign, but what we're doing here is showing you what their preference votes are. So, for example, this is Senator Gerard Rennick, and for the People First Party, and he's saying vote 1 here, and that means the Libertarian Party is his number 2, and 3 is Family First, 4 is the Trumpet of Patriots, and 6 is Pauline Hanson's, and 5 is the Great Australia Party. So these are all minor parties which should go before the major parties, although the Trumpets of Patriots seem to be a bit of a dodgy situation, so I won't say anything about them. But this is how it works. And so if you're only voting the 6 here, all of those other squares, those are missed opportunities for you to keep your number 1 in play. So how to vote? The mug's way to vote, and the way the major parties want you to vote, is to leave boxes empty, whether that's in the above the line or the below the line. Votes are counted in rounds of voting. If you only fill in 6 or 12 votes, then after 6 or 12 rounds of voting, your vote stops being counted. To make your vote count all the way to the end of the counting, then do a full preference vote either above the line or below the line. So I believe it is 49 boxes in the below the line section, and it's all of the boxes above the line. This matters in tight races where full preference below the line votes often decide which party gets the last seat in the Senate or the upper house. So watch the Quark Beat guide to voting in the video below so you know what they do not want you to know. I was at the early voting, and it was interesting that the Australian Electoral Commission worker was clearly giving out false information by saying that you just fill in 6 or 12 boxes and leave the rest of the boxes blank. That's incorrect. If you notice in upper house or Senate elections, the counting takes longer than the lower house. That's because they have to count all of the below the line votes, which are very important for helping minor parties and freedom parties to get over the line to win a quota. I'd also like to draw your attention to the concept of controlled opposition. This is the cosmic trick hiding in media and politics. Controlled opposition refers to a strategy where an individual, group or entity appears to oppose or challenge a dominant power, ideology or system, e.g. government, political party or media narrative, but is secretly controlled, influenced or funded by that same power. The purpose is to manipulate public perception, neutralise genuine dissent, or steer opposition into ineffective or harmless channels, thereby maintaining the status quo. Many of the political parties are designed to be controlled opposition, which collect votes and channel preferences to major political parties. This is why knowing how to vote and who to vote for is essential to an informed consent vote. Check out QuarkBeat's full article on controlled opposition, and that will be in the description box. This is it here, and it goes through clearly about media figures or outlets, political actors, distraction or division, and gatekeeping. We see, for example, in the state election, the Democratic Labour Party have got the name Stop Pedophiles, Save the Kiddies or something like that, and that party actually doesn't do anything about Save the Children. It's simply a front to collect votes for the Labour Party. So the key characteristics are it appears authentic, limited impact, selective criticism, and controlled outcomes. Their efforts may channel public anger into dead-end solutions, like voting for pre-approved candidates or supporting ineffective policies. Now I know this is a bit of a pipe dream, but it would be great to have a People's Party. I know that sounds a bit commie, but what I mean is a party that is a genuine grassroots political movement with the following characteristics. And where people can vet the candidates, where there can be a democratic process in the community, where the selection process goes on, where people are interviewed and they are known to be of good character. We know that there's a lot of infiltration in public life, and there's a lot of people who pretend to be good people when they are not. And one of the things that bad people do is they get involved pretending to be good people so that they can get access to positions of power. And of course, these jobs in Parliament come with very cushy salaries and perks in terms of flights, etc. So people tend to say anything to get into positions of power. Call me old-fashioned, but I'm a bit of a cynic. So who to vote for? When it comes to policy statements and promises, the only ones that count are from the parties that are likely to form government. Sadly, in this election, we know that the major parties are both on side with the Zionist regime occupying Palestine. The Labour Party are actively sending weapons to Israel and Ukraine, which suggests that they are the party of neocon warmongers. As we all know, there's a trick in which anyone who criticises the regime that is occupying Palestine, then you're called anti-Semite. But I adopt the Candace Owens position, where I say that bombing children and women and civilians is not appropriate. Because this is going out on YouTube, we cannot say more than that. Minor parties make all sorts of grandiose statements and make promises they know they are never going to be able to deliver on. That's why party history is a very important metric. We've seen many parties pretend to be for free speech and religious freedom, and then they vote for laws and nasty restrictions hidden in the small print, deliberately not spoken of by the media or passed in the dead of night as a sly sleight of hand. In the Victorian setting, we must always remember the Reason Party, and Fiona, who was elected as a Libertarian-style party and then jumped into bed with Dan Andrews' tyranny and passed some really terrible legislation that took away people's rights. Far-left extremist political parties are notorious for telling lies and using language that suggests support but in actuality hides their harmful radical agendas. It's part of their devotion to communism and their mission to incrementally build a tyrannical, atheist, all-powerful state. Far-left extremist parties are pro-abortion and they support radical sex and gender policies that include harmful, irreversible gender surgeries and medications for children. Worse, these parties are advocating for laws which include late-stage abortions and give the state the power to undertake gender interventions on children without parental consent. Laws in the USA are being used as their model, and these include state removal of children from the custody of parents who refuse to allow their underage children to start sex change procedures. Sensible centrist conservatives, who are labelled far-right by leftist media, have been fighting these extreme leftist positions for years. The far left are using religious freedom laws designed with loopholes for their agenda to force religious and non-government schools to teach radical sex and gender education programs like children can consent to irreversible body modifications. Children can't consent. These brainwashing programs are designed around ending the family, destroying masculinity and femininity, and are the thin end of the leftist wedge. This is not about adults being free to do their own thing, which is conflated in this debate. Adults can do their own thing and suffer the consequences, but it's important to note that sensible conservatives in the Western world are concerned about the far left agenda to involve children in these extreme sex and gender ideologies. A lot of these groups and parties of the far left, they're very good at saying they're here to protect the environment or they're here to protect children, but some of the biggest human trafficking organisations in the world have names like Protect the Children. We're only here to help the children, for example. So it's important to be really fully informed about some of the parties that are touting for people's votes. I'm concerned that those well-known wolves in sheep's clothing, the Greens, are presenting themselves as supporting Palestine. I'm concerned that this is not genuine and that they are just using this as a ploy to capture votes. I am concerned that the Muslim votes are going to install members of the Greens political party. I've had a long time experience with the Greens and I consider them a far left extremist party. Their sex and gender policies are as I have described, and there's a lot of extreme feminist viewpoints being pushed. I am concerned that Free Palestine for the Greens is just a vote-winning promise that they're making, but will it actually matter? And what happens if they get into bed with the ruling party and vote to send weapons to Israel when they are installed into power? Because that's what happens. They'll get entrenched into power and then we'll find out what their true colours are. It's been said that the Greens are a front for the ALP and are there to swoop in all the people that the ALP can't get. When it comes to the Greens, we have the example of how they've conducted themselves in Germany. Annalena Baerbock, the Greens foreign minister, was one of the biggest warmongers, kowtowing to the Ukraine situation, and some of the other things that have been alleged are that the Greens want to stop people going to national parks so they can knock down trees to build wind turbines without people seeing how devastating the damage is to the environment. For example, how Alcoa has devastated the environment behind closed doors. And it's important that people realise that wind turbines and even solar power panels are really quite terrible for the environment. It's not really clean technology. I'm not saying that I'm a climate denier. What I am saying is that the technology they are advocating for is actually about quick money making for corrupt people rather than doing anything to affect the climate change. Like, why aren't they advocating for gardens in people's homes and getting people to plant trees? So free speech That's also really important because far left extremists want to shut up their opposition or dissenters by removing free speech. The Labor Party passed some really terrible laws about misinformation, and we all know that misinformation is just ideas that the government or the hegemony in power just doesn't like. And death tax. The Labor Party and the Greens are alleged to have a death tax coming, and they want to put a tax on inheritance so that after paying tax all your life, your family get to pay tax again when you die. That means that half the value of your house won't go to your children, it will go to the government. Aboriginal rights are being used as a cover to take away property ownership rights and are a stepping stone to communist rule. Far left extremism has a goal of turning the West communist, and they use lies and doublespeak to carry out this mission. If they were really serious about Aboriginal rights, they would be getting into Aboriginal communities and doing something about this terrible drug and alcohol abuse and sexual abuse that's going on. They would be doing something about the meth crises. They would be closing the gap in terms of health and helping Indigenous people to build lives that are meaningful and without the endemic poverty that the welfare traps have established. People also need to be thinking about exposing the 28. And who are the 28? The Wood Royal Commission was a royal commission into childhood abuse, and there was 28 pedophiles who were named in documents that were put forward by Senator Bill Heffernan, and they have been covered up, and it is time that those names were exposed and charges laid. It's very clear that many organisations which say they are here to help, they're really money-making schemes for rich elites. Just look at how many of these libertarians and freedom parties are refusing to speak up and demand the release of the files relating to the Wood Royal Commission. It's like in the USA, where we all know the names of people who went to Epstein Island on his plane. Ghislaine Maxwell was sent to prison for child trafficking, but none of the clients have been arrested. And it makes you wonder, doesn't it? And that's why we need to have rigorous vetting of candidates, and we need to be doing our research so that we can tell who seem to be people that we don't want in Parliament. People come out of nowhere. We don't know who they are. They have a sudden blinding launch into our culture, and we're all expected to just follow along and go, yes, yes, vote, 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 without knowing anything about these people. And finally, I'd like to raise an issue that perhaps might be quite controversial for some people. One of the big reasons not to vote for the Labor Party is their policy on immigration. Over the last 3 years, we've had 1.8 million people come into the country, and the Greens also want to continue this high immigration. You have to ask the question, why? Are they bringing in voters to manipulate the system? But all of that aside, I am not anti bringing in genuine refugees. What I am saying is you can't bring 1.8 million people into a country without making investments in infrastructure. And we should be voting against the Labor Party and punishing them for their lack of care when it comes to the people. We have huge homeless problems, rents are through the roof, and social problems are spiralling out of control, and the government is not investing in infrastructure related to health or housing or any of the things that all these immigrants need. They're being plonked in the communities, and little thought is being given to how the communities, whether it be health services, hospitals or housing, copes. We don't have enough houses in this country. They always seem to have their developer mates make huge amounts of money off the land releases. It's hugely expensive to buy a house. It's hugely expensive to rent. I know a number of people that are homeless and cannot afford rent. And we've also got a meth problem that these governments are ignoring. It seems to me this election campaign seems to be about froth and bubbles and meaningless chatter without a lot of media scrutiny of the policies. This is why I don't think we can really afford the far left extremist political parties. But that doesn't mean I'm a fan of Dutton either. So I'm not endorsing any one political party for this election, and I haven't worked on campaigns for this election because I feel that it's a bit of a dog's breakfast. I've been concentrating more on educating voters about how to vote and telling people they need to examine who they are voting for. So if you don't want to have your preferences go to political party X, then the only way to really avoid that is going to be a full preference below the line vote. Bring a pen, know who you're going to vote for, and don't necessarily trust the staff at the polling booth. Alright, well, thank you very much for watching. We appreciate everyone who watches our videos. Please like, share and subscribe. It really does help us beat the algorithm. My X profile is at James Randell 17 or our new at Real Quark Beat on X.com, and it's at Real Quark Beat on YouTube and Quark Beat on Facebook and Rumble, Leaving Sugar Mountain on BitChute. Thank you to everyone on BitChute who watches our videos. We hope you get to vote okay without any problems, and let's all wait and see what the result is. And I'll see you next time. Bye bye.
It's Quark Beats time, feel the vibe. Ideas that lift, sparks unite. Like, share, subscribe, don't think twice. You can't deny, let's amplify. Join the beat, it's time to Quark Beat. Join the beat, it's time to Quark Beat.
It's time to Quark Beat.